Thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for putting on this event. Absolutely wonderful. And also, I would like to say thank you for coming to our school district for this event, and that we have the space to provide for that. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for us to showcase who we are, what our brand is, and so I want to say thank you for all of you for coming here today. Second thing I'd like to do is just share a little story. Sunday, this past Sunday, every Sunday I call my father. He lives out in California. He's 80 years old, and I try to make it a habit to talk to my dad, right? And so I call him, and first question is always, did you go to Mass? Yes, I went to Mass, Dad. Second question is, are you nervous about Tuesday? And I had to think about that for a second, and he goes, well, you know all those high muckety-mucks are going to be out there listening to what you have to say. So you all have a title, it's High Muckety-Muck. Although I don't know, I think Jeff Kolnhofer, I don't know if he's a high muckety-muck, but he is here, right, Jeff? Well, thank you. Thanks for coming, Jeff. I know being the high muckety-muck you are, it's a big sacrifice, but I do appreciate it. Oh, that's right. And his sister Beth. Beth is here too. She's the muckety of the muck. All right. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate you coming, all the dignitaries that are in the room. We're blessed in Lakeville. We're blessed because of the people in this room and the things that you do. And we're blessed because we have just a fantastic community that supports our schools, and I can't say thank you enough or tell you how much I appreciate you and the work that you do to help us. As we go through the program today, we're going to have a couple of students that are going to speak, and before they do, I just want to recognize their parents because they're very important people, and you are a high muckety-muck. And I do want to say thank you to the parents. So first I want to recognize Mr. Craig Weber. Craig, if you would. Real round of applause for Craig. Thank you, Craig. And his son Carson will be speaking shortly. And then also Andrew and Aaron Holl, if you would. They're here. Thank you for coming. And their daughter, Caitlyn, will be speaking a little later. So I'd like to just say, again, good morning, and thank you for coming today, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you about the state of Lakeville area schools. I can confidently and with great conviction report to you that the state of our schools has never been better, and that we are on a trajectory to greater heights in all areas of performance. The support we receive from our community is tremendous, and we could not and would not be a premier school district without the teamwork, support, and the contributions of all the surrounding communities that make up our terrific school district. I can further report that it is my unabashed assessment that across the depth and breadth of our school system, we have exceptional people who staff positions of leadership, teaching, support, and administration of this district and its considerable demands, and we do so as a cohesive team. All are focused and working hard toward the common goal of providing the very best quality education a student can receive in the state of Minnesota. And it's no secret that our community is the fastest growing community in Minnesota. Families are choosing to come to this area for many reasons. And I would contend, as that discussion occurs among families, that quality education is a key decision criterion. If not, the number one reason a family makes this area their choice is their students' education. To me, that is the most meaningful statement. It is a clear vote of confidence. It is the number one metric we could want as a school district. And as I said in an interview yesterday, we have the best problem a public education system could have, and that is enrollment growth. Lakeville area schools is indeed growing. Our economy is roaring, and this area benefits. This also brings challenges that we collectively, as a community, as a cohesive team, must make in order to chart a path and set a trajectory to greater heights of performance for the benefit and greater good of all who come to our schools. So with that, I would like an opportunity to share some information about Lakeville area schools and give you some more background about the district school levy referendum, which is just a mere 3.5 weeks away. Direct your attention to the charts here. So first I want to share a little background around our strategic plan. Our vision. Our vision is to inspire a passion for learning in every student. Nobody comes to our school district without the understanding and the desire to learn. If you've ever been to our early childhood building and seen the kids at that stage of their development, you know that they want to learn and they want to be inspired. And everybody in this room can probably point to a mentor or somebody in their school life that inspired them, inspired you in some manner. And we want to be that for all our students every day across our district. And I want to ask Carson Weber to come up and share with you a little bit about his inspiration and passion as a student in our system. Carson's a senior at Lakeville North. Sir?
My name is Carson Weber, as Mr. Baumann said. At Lakeville North, I am the head student aide, I would say, in shop class. I used to struggle a lot with peers. I used to struggle in school a lot. 9th grade, I caught wind from our old shop teacher, Mr. Sullivan, that we were going to lose the shop, which I found a place in the school that I could actually be in. And when I then heard that we're getting a new teacher, and I kind of looked him up, which probably shouldn't have done, but I did. It made me really excited. So most kids dread the safety part of shop class. I probably should have listened to one of the shop things, which is make sure that your piece is always mounted and clamped down, which I failed to do with one project. But Mr. Bass, after that accident happened, we went back to safety again. And that's always, he says, his #1 priority, because someone can get hurt. 10th grade, it was really good. When Bass wasn't there, class was not fun, because if we had a sub, we're just sitting on the Chromebooks on Tinkercad. But everyone was happy when he would be back. I had the option, and I took it up to go to the Donnie Smith motorcycle show that we go to now every year, I think it is. And that opened my eyes up to a lot of new things we can do. And we got opportunities to partner with Meltzer Tires and Sugar Bear chopper frames. So that was good. A lot of things that we do is we lose space quite easily. And last year I took initiative to go to the school board, and there's a room next door, which I don't mean to move the people out. I kind of felt bad, but there's a room next door that we have IT people in, and I noticed we were starting to lose a lot of room after we started getting a lot of equipment in. And I was like, well, we need a second room. And I've always known this room's been there, and I've heard that we used to have it. So I went to the school board, and I bugged them a couple of times at the meeting. I think it was 4 times. And at the beginning of the year, Mr. Bass told all of his classes, I think I was almost the last one to hear this, that we are getting the second classroom, which I was overjoyed. This past week, would it be this past week? We got a water jet donated to us, which is highly expensive. And that just shows that the space that we got, that the school board granted us, means that we can move a ton of things that we have into the new space after Christmas. I think STEM classes are important because, well, we all learn how to use our hands. I mean, I can't sit in a class for more than 15 minutes without having to get up. It shows that there are a lot of different pathways for students. There's a student who graduated last year from our school, and the plastic welding company came in and they donated plastic welders to us, and now that student works at that company in Lakeville. So it shows that when we have partnerships with the schools, there's always jobs that will come out of it. And Bass has inspired a passion in me, a tremendous passion in me for welding. So it would have been 10th grade I made this. I worked for a lady who her husband was a mechanic, and there were a lot of parts just laying around in the house and outside. So I went and asked her if I could look around the yard. And I find the main body part is metal that we got donated to our class that kids just would mess up, so I took it. But the rest of it's all welded. Now, this right here, this is new. We just got a UV printer that I've yet to learn how to use, but I'll probably learn how to use because I know how to use almost every piece of equipment in the shop. UV printer, it's like a massive printer. You can set any piece. We can do t-shirts, we do metal, we do wood. And it puts down the picture, and then it'll put a clear film over it. So we've done wood and metal so far as I know, and yesterday we just did something extremely small. We took Mr. Bass's charger for his computer, the little nub that goes into the computer, and it's not too big, and we put our little STEM logo on it. Bass's class taught me almost everything I should know. My dad kind of helped me a lot to push me forward. The summertime, I actually went into the shop after football practice of my 11th grade year to help Mr. Bass. So I'd like to thank Mr. Bass for having me the opportunity and taking this job to come to our school, because it's changed who I am. He always lives by 10 commandments, and one of them is showing up to school. No one wants to hire someone who can't show up or shows up late, and that's really helped me, because I got a job with Lakeville Collision down by Mixed Stop, and Mr. Bass was the first person I asked to basically vouch for me, and I've worked there since March. I go on leave for football and wrestling season, but then I'll go back this spring. Donations are a big priority for our classes. I mean, not everyone can donate, but like even the small stuff as is, we got metal, and that just helps because everyone does plasma cutting. So, and we do a lot of recycling. Homecoming week, I went to the scrapyard and dropped off all the metal that we had scrap, and we get $15, and it helps our class. Any little money that if we run, it helps us. So thank you for allowing me to speak today, and thank you, Mr. Bass, for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Carson. We appreciate you tremendously, and thank you for all your hard work. So our mission, and Carson spoke to this a little bit, he used the word partnership, and this is really, for all of us, it's vital to our success. We cannot succeed as a school district if we don't have strong partnerships, and if we don't work with our families and we don't work with our community, we will isolate ourselves and wither from the vine. We need you. We want you. We are dependent upon you as our community. And in order for us to ensure the success of our students, it takes the whole community to be behind our kids. They are our future. They are the future leaders. We shape them. And our mission is to do that personally, socially, academically, and civically. We think those 4 dimensions are vital to working with our young people and moving them into the next stage of their life. We get them from early childhood until they graduate from high school. You have to help us do that, and we know that, and we appreciate that, and we've codified that and institutionalized that in our mission statement. As an organization, and many of you know, the bigger an organization is, the more it has to be grounded in some areas of focus so that as you develop your plans, as you go through your decision cycles, you keep these grounded areas of focus always in your decision cycles and always in your resourcing processes. So student achievement, community connectedness, fiscal responsibility, having a high quality workforce, and safety and security always have to be resident as we work as a team around the things that have to happen in our school district. Everybody here, I think, could understand the need for those kinds of grounding elements in your operation. So let's talk about the numbers. What's going on in Lakeville this past year and what's on the horizon? Well, the first thing is we're at 11,500 in our enrollment. And you'll see later, I'll show you in more contrast, but that is the highest enrollment in the history of Lakeville as a school system. And it's going up. It's going up. We have 700 teachers, rounded, and they are fantastic. Absolutely to a person. We have quality teachers in our organization, and I think it's those classrooms that attract people to this community. And it's those people, because we are not an esoteric entity. We are people. And people make a difference. And our teachers make a huge difference, and they are attracting what people in Minnesota want by coming to this community. We serve 9,600 student riders. Not too long ago, we had fees, student fees for riding. We were able to work our way out of that. We also had some challenges with safety and security, and we designed safety zones in our community, and our community is shifting and changing, and Jason, we have to, Mr. Miller, where are you, Mr. Miller? You keep building roads, so he keeps changing the he keeps changing the way our layout is, but we try to stay connected we try to stay tied into what's going on with the city best we can and make sure that our safety zones are right. But we have 9,600 riders now, and they're putting on 7,300 miles a day, safely, safely. I think, I don't know, is Mike Forboard here or Bill? Well, they tell me that's a trip to Alaska and back on a daily basis when you do that twice a day. And I'm like, you know, that doesn't scare me as much as what's going on around our yellow buses. And I would just take the opportunity to say to everybody, and I know there's nobody here that doesn't stop for a bus, but you might know somebody who doesn't. Please tell them to stop for the bus when it's appropriate to stop. I've seen a few incidences where that has not occurred, and it's very dangerous because our most precious cargo are our kids on those buses, and we need to be safety-minded with them. But that's a lot of miles to put on, and do so safely is commendable. 8,600 daily meals. So we have a support system and a staff that churns out 8,600 high-quality, yummy meals every single day. And we think that that's a testament to just a good team working together with good leadership. We have 18 facilities in our system, 1.8 million square feet, and 613 acres of land that we have to maintain day in and day out. That's a pretty good size, and I would challenge anybody to find a better maintenance and ground team in this state. I would challenge you. They are fantastic. They do hard work every day, all day, and they lead the way, I think, in school districts across this state. And we cover 86 square miles. We go way down south here, but all our schools are up in here. We have Dakota and Scott County as our area for Lakeville area schools. So the other thing is our buses are traveling quite amount of distance. Some students are on the buses longer than others, and that's always a challenge in our school district. But those are our boundaries, and you can see a pretty good sized school district. So enrollment. This is an important story to tell because it's going to present some challenges for our community as we move forward in time. But the blue line represents our highest enrollment in our history, and you can see we've breached that line and we are heading up. And unless Justin slows things down, we have to deal with that over the next several years. And typically, if there is a downturn in the economy and there is some slowing to our growth, it takes a little while, 24 months, to impact our system. So we think that we have some challenges ahead, and we also think it's a good problem to have. But along the way, we're going to have to figure out some solutions because we are starting to feel the pressure of that. And I also wanted to share our demographic breakdown, how we look as an organization. And you can see that I think this past year, and Dr. Barron will correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the 2 or more races category came online with the state this past cycle. And so you see that there in the 5%, which you haven't seen previously recorded. So there's some change. The challenge we have in our school districts is really around concentration, where the demographic shifts are occurring in our system. So we do pay attention to that, and we look at it by school and by grade. Test scores, MCAs. What you see on the top is reading, and what you see on the bottom is math. The red line reflects Lakeville area schools, and the blue line, darker line, reflects the state. And we are staying above the state in aggregate across the system in both areas. There is an interesting trend both in the state and in the school district, slightly downward, somewhat flat but downward, and we need to do some, we are working very hard to reverse that trend. I'm not so interested in the state as I am in Lakeville. And we've done a lot of hard work in our teaching and learning department and assessed ourselves and realigned ourselves, and I think the benefits of that you will see in the next cycle here. So you can hold me to that. And then our graduation rate. The red line in this case represents the state, and the dark line represents Lakeville. And you can see we're tracking far above the state in our graduation rate within our system. All right, so I'm going to transition here a little bit and share some information around our upcoming levy. As you know, we have an operating levy and a bond referendum. On November 5th is voting day, and I want to share with you some background on financial information about what the levy entails and why we are going to a levy. Financial information, I know, is like watching paint dry or water boil, but it's important, and I think a lot of leaders in this room understand that. So I want to start with sharing what's going on in the state and what the state finance system has chosen to do with deliberate intent and why levies matter in school districts. So the red line would show what the state would be tracking on a per pupil basis in the general education formula if the consumer price index were applied. It is not applied. The state of Minnesota does not apply an inflationary factor to its revenue provisions for school districts. So the blue line represents actual. And this line is on a per pupil basis for the general education fund. So on a per pupil basis, $6,567 is the last level of per pupil funding that the state is providing. So for our school district and all school districts across the state, the statement, whether overt or not overt, is simply this. The state will fund at a certain level through state aid and the general education formula, and they will leave it up to school districts or to local governance to make up what the needs are with respect to any particular school district, and the only way to do that is through referendum. So the system is designed that way, and I think that's an important point for everybody to understand. It's not something that school boards invent. It's the reality of how the state of Minnesota does school finance. So that picture is an important picture to understand. So to that end, what I think is important to share in all transparency is we have some referendums that are currently on the books. And this chart here shows you school districts that we chose to share based on size and or proximity to Lakeville. And what you will see here is Lakeville is this dark blue line here at $1,200. So the aggregate of the current levies that we have on the books are $1,282 per pupil. The other schools that you see depicted here show us toward the bottom end of that. And the aggregate in the group weighted average is this gray line here at $1,635 per pupil. So we're slightly under that. And if you look at the state average, it's at $1,059, so we're just slightly above that. So the state one represents all school districts. And that's important to understand for a couple of reasons, not the least of which is if we're going to make up the difference in some of the challenges that we have financially, our referendums are the only opportunity to do that. We're not going to be able to influence the state aid formula once the legislature passes that legislation. So we're moving up on a levy, and just a little background, the Board of Education made a decision on August 13th to seek a 2-question referendum, operating and bond. And what we're trying to do is expand opportunities for students and address school safety and security. The vote, again, is on November 5th, and 3.5 weeks away. Hopefully, you'll all at least go out and vote. We hope you will. So we'll share with you a couple of videos to give you some background, and then I'll walk you through some in more detail.
We are a premier district. And so when you think about what a premier district does, is it provides premier opportunities.
Students at the middle level need lots of experiences to sort of try different classes and find out where their passion may lie as they are trying to figure out who they're going to be in the next stage of their life.
This is where I learn, and this is a place where I need to share my thoughts and focus on my future. It's very important to me that we stay safe in here.
want to retain our sense of community and happiness and joy of learning, and at the same time make sure that our students and staff and community are protected.
Those two videos hopefully give you a little bit of sense of what we're trying to do. I'm going to give you a little more detail now. The operating levy question is $345 per student, and that would yield $4.27 million for 10 years. We are seeking to cover down on several things. Student opportunities. We want to get our middle school programming into a contemporary operating environment. We want to increase classroom resources because we have increasing enrollment and demands that will be levied, so to speak, on our system. And we want to make sure that we increase our support for social and emotional needs for our students as those demands become more prescient over time in our system. We also want to take a big step forward in our safety and security. We're seeking to add a school resource officer, which is a police officer. The need for a threat assessment leader is upon us, and our information technology support staff is vulnerable right now because we have such demand and we are growing and we are not staffed properly in that area. And I'll share a little more with you as we go through these. So the first thing is what's going on in our middle schools and what are we trying to do? On the left, you'll see our current operating model. And what we're trying to do is get ourselves in a position to improve and get our ability to provide both exploratory and elective opportunities for our students. We don't have any world language in our middle schools. Our STEM program is growing and getting stronger in our high schools, and we want to make sure that our middle schools are a good feeder system for that because we think that the future is STEM related. We're going to need 25 more teachers. That's about 8 per middle school. We have 3 middle schools in order to change the scheduling from its current 7-period day and 6 classes to an 8-period day. We also want to make sure that our teachers are able to function in a teaming fashion because we have social, emotional, and intervention needs that are growing across our system, and as we bring in more students, that's going to become more acute. Our teaching and learning. We've put a very, very big emphasis around curriculum and curriculum development and being in a curriculum review cycle. We also need to make sure that the classroom resources that we have in our system are going to be able to meet our needs with our growing size, and our professional development around culturally responsive instruction, social emotional needs of our students is key and essential. As you know, we also put expansion onto Cherry View Elementary. Their enrollment is over 700 students. In that school, Lake Marion is also experiencing right at the 700 student level, and we have to provide the right staffing to deal with those challenges. And so we want to make sure that we have the funding in order to support that. With social emotional teaching and learning, this has multiple levels of need for our school district and has multiple levels of impact. Our view of safety and security is not solely about the things that we put in a building in terms of physical, but the social and emotional needs of our students and our ability to deal with the challenges that mental health issues are presenting in our school system. And it's not just in Lakeville, it's across all the school districts in our state. More prevalent probably in our metro than anywhere else. So we're taking that approach as a method to improve relationships because relationships matter in teaching and learning processes. And we also want to add some counselors into our system. Currently, we have 4 counselors in our elementary system. So that's 1 for every 2 schools. The need is definitely 1-to-1 or 1 in every school. We have 8 elementary schools, and we want to get ourselves in a better stance there for the benefit of our students and families. School security. We want to bring in a school resource officer. This is a peace officer, a police officer from the Lakeville Police Department. We have 2 in our system currently. They're both stationed at our high schools, Lakeville South and Lakeville North. We would like to have a 3rd in our system to service our middle schools in order to improve our ability to do 2 things. One is respond to situations that need attention, and also they are integrated in our threat assessment and part of our professional teams that we're bringing online to do threat assessment. And just to share a little bit about threat assessment, this isn't necessarily trying to diagnose where the tactical threat is to a building, but where are we having challenges with behavior or other problems within our student body or within our organization, and bring a team up alongside where we identify problems to help them manage and navigate the situation so that it does not escalate into something that we cannot manage and can become dangerous. And we do know by doing evaluation on situations that have occurred across the country that our ability to do this is vital or key and essential to our success in mitigating safety and security hazards that might present in a school district. Information technology. I think most of you know and understand that the teaching and learning process has a information technology component to it that's pretty significant. We have some challenges there, and as we grow as an organization, we're going to need to be better serving our users across the system in the classroom in a variety of ways. One of the things we have in our school district, and this is common in many school districts, is a dual platform system where you have Microsoft systems, which are typically Dell or Panasonic or whatever, and then you have Apple, Macintosh, iOS, Android systems. So a lot of businesses don't do that. Most private sector businesses will be single platform because it's financially beneficial to be single platform. It costs you more to do both. The challenge we have, though, is that the system that operates across almost any school district you walk into is dual platform. And we have a good Apple system specialist. We don't have a Microsoft system specialist. And why does all that matter? Well, there's 2 reasons that I'm very concerned with. One is cybersecurity. And how are we protecting our students? We're doing the very best that we can with what we have. We need to get to the next generation of capability with regard to that. We also need to make sure that our data privacy practices are at the right level on an ongoing basis. And that's a rapidly changing environment. I think the state of Minnesota has experienced that. Most local government agencies are experiencing that. And it's also true in all your local education agencies or administrations across the state of Minnesota. So that's what we're trying to do with adding our staff to have the technical expertise to do better in that area for our students and families. So this shows you where the dollars would be allocated, and you can see that the majority of those are for the middle school programming redesign in this operating levy. I'm going to move on because I want to give you a chance to ask some questions. So I'm going to, before I get too far along in this presentation, I wanted to ask from our Century Middle School, Caitlyn Holl, to share with you her story and her advocacy for what's going on in our middle schools.
Hello, Chamber of Commerce and citizens of Lakeville. I'm Caitlyn Holl, an 8th grader at Century Middle School. For the past 2 years, I have been fighting for a middle schooler's right to have electives, plus express and articulate themselves. The reason why I am at the State of the Schools today is to stress the fact that middle schoolers need and deserve more elective opportunities. First of all, we need to be completely honest. ISD 194 is the only school district in the entire South Metro that doesn't have language opportunities for middle schools. That puts us behind Burnsville, Northfield, Shakopee, Eagan, Prior Lake, and Apple Valley. We seriously need to fix that and show that Lakeville really is a leader when it comes to schools. Lakeville dominates in test scores, athletics, and basically everything, except the arts. Bilingual people do much better than monolingual people on standardized tests. Musicians have superior working memory. Art enhances brain power, puzzle skills, and problem-solving strategies. Isn't it obvious that middle schoolers need the arts in their lives? It could definitely put our district in a much better place. You may be wondering why one elective isn't enough. You may be on the verge of a counter-argument. You may be ready to turn your nose up at this seemingly unnecessary idea. Well, you need to be ready to listen. In reality, one elective is not enough. Students need to be exposed to new cultures, new ideas, new opportunities, new experiences, and new ways for their brains to work. Electives are about being exposed to new things and situations, and students absolutely cannot wait until high school to experience these things. The brain of a middle schooler is like a sponge. It soaks in information and can change dynamically every single day. Middle schoolers need these new electives, cultures, ideas, opportunities, and experiences. And most importantly, middle schoolers need choice. Furthermore, you absolutely need to vote yes in the levies. When you mark an answer on your ballot, you are literally impacting the lives of thousands of middle schoolers. Middle schoolers who will eventually be adults like everyone else in this room. Middle schoolers who will eventually be making the decisions that you do every day. Middle schoolers who will eventually be changing the world. They need to have the best education as possible. Also, I would like to encourage people to step up. People of all ages, including my middle school peers. They need to be able to stand up for what they believe in and express themselves. The only way that middle schoolers can do this is through electives. Expressing themselves in art or discussing real-world issues in middle school debates. Electives can help people express and understand the world around them. Speaking of standing up for what you believe in, I challenge you to vote yes in the upcoming levies. One small vote can lead towards more electives in middle schools, more freedom for middle schoolers, and in results, higher standardized test scores, as I previously mentioned. At this point, as an 8th grader, I will never be able to participate in middle school electives. But it isn't about me. It's about the future of middle schools. The future of middle schools is the future of middle schoolers, and middle schoolers are our future. Electives are everything. Coming from experience, middle schoolers don't place much relevance in tests and quizzes. We prefer a more kinesthetic form of learning. We learn through hands-on experiences and most of all, choice. Choice is what middle schoolers need the most. Choice for new electives, cultures, ideas, situations, opportunities, and experiences. Studies show that electives would exponentially benefit middle schoolers. According to education researcher Robert Marzano, choice has been linked to increases in student task, performance, and subsequent learning. Every elective class is a new chance to learn and to choose, which is why I want you to choose yes in the levies. As Pablo Picasso once said, every child is an artist. The problem is how to maintain being an artist once we grow up. Children in middle schools need to be exposed to more art and more opportunities, and that change needs to happen now. Overall, electives would be extraordinarily beneficial to middle schools and middle schoolers. Once again, I challenge you to vote yes in this year's levies. I'm Caitlyn Holl, and thank you, State of the Schools.
Thank you, Caitlyn Holl. Appreciate that. Is it any wonder that we have a bright future when you listen to Mr. Weber, you listen to Caitlyn? We have a bright future in this country. We have a bright future right here in Lakeville, and we need to be able to nurture that as a community. So the other part of this levy is a bond referendum, and it's a contingent question. In other words, if the operating levy does not pass, we will not have a bond referendum. They go hand in hand or hand in glove. And so the contingent question is for $42.9 million. And again, looking at it from the perspective of student opportunities and safety and security, we're looking at multiple things. A gym at McGuire, a curriculum and competition pool at Century Middle School, and 2 artificial practice turf fields, one at North and one at South. In the safety and security, we want to take a big step forward and do some major improvements across all of our buildings and information technology upgrades for our school district. So in more specifics, the gym, which this is the pool, this is the current gym, this is where we're proposing to put 18,000 square foot 2 teaching station gym on the backside there of the current gymnasium. The challenge we have in our district, and some of you may know this, some of you may be involved directly with our associations, both all our activities associations. We permit out our space, that we have our gym space across our system, and this particular gym would be a drop in the bucket to the utilization that we have across our system. Every single year around springtime, we have this major snow that hasn't melted, and we have not just people in the gym that are basketball players and volleyball players, but you get the softball, you get the soccer, you get the baseball. Everybody's got to use those, and so we do permit out our space. This would help the situation. It will also help McGuire with physical education, that we're trying to make sure that we're all on par across our school system. A competition and curriculum pool at Century Middle School. This is IPAVA here, so just to orient you, and 185th. So the pool would be constructed off the side of the building there, a 25-yard, 8-lane competition pool with a diving well on this side. We think that a couple things with this. The school district has 2 high schools, and we can only use 1 competition pool at Kenwood Trail. McGuire had to be brought offline because the Minnesota High School League deemed it unserviceable for the purpose of competition. It was not deep enough. The other opportunity we have, if this is successful, is we can take the pool here at McGuire and change it to a warm water pool if the opportunity presents itself for our early childhood users, senior citizen users. We don't have pools in Lakeville except for what the school district provides. As a community partner, we see this as an opportunity for the whole community. If we do put this pool on Century Middle School and we bring it operational, I think also the benefits that we have as a community, this will be a destination spot. I think having competitions and a destination spot here in Lakeville would bring business to our community and help us out in that manner. So we see it as a community functional opportunity for everybody. The turfs, 2 turfs. Okay, how many people here were at homecoming at North? How many were at South? How were at the North-South game? All right, yay. That was a doozy there. If you've been to North, you park up here on this side. I know a lot of people park all around because it's tough parking, especially on homecoming week or North-South week. But North-South game was at North this year too. But if you walk down that trail, this is a school building. If you walk down this trail, you'll know right there is a big wide open area. That's where we're proposing to put the turf down there, 150,000 square foot turf there. And then at South, this is the stadium here, and it would be on the west side of the stadium for Lakeville South if we put that turf in there. Now there's a lot of conversation around domes, and I see that as a future conversation. We are not proposing that. What we're proposing is 2 practice turfs, and I would just say in all 3 of the cases of these items that projects that we shared, these have been in our system for discussion and has been put on a priority list back as far as 2014-15. And we did a revisit of that in 2017 with a task force, a community task force, and these items were on there as well. We didn't invent these. These are things that came out of the task force work as projects. So I just want to be clear about that. We are putting in dome-ready foundations, because why pay for it later? If you're going to do something in the future, set the condition for success. And we think that that's a smart thing to do. So, safety and security, a layered integrated security system. So what are we trying to do here, and what is different about this than maybe anything else? A couple things. Some of you that are sitting over there back by Mayor Julius can see a little lockdown button that looks similar to this. Just think of it this way. Let's just say we're all in a classroom. This is a classroom. And let's just pretend there's not windows there. But we have the wall here and it faces the hallway. So what we're proposing is that a teacher in a classroom, every classroom, would have this lockdown button, something similar to this. That lockdown button, when it's pushed, would lock the doors, mag-lock the doors, and send us a signal to administration and to first responders that there's a lockdown and emergency occurring in that facility. The outer wall, or the wall facing the corridor, would have ballistic paneling, which looks like drywall. If you might not have caught the subtlety in the video, but one of the things we want to do with this is also not make it a garrison military kind of facility. We want to make it a welcoming environment, and this paneling here is similar to drywall. It looks like drywall, but it's ballistic paneling, and it's able to provide cover as well as concealment. And so the theory of action is that if an emergency were to occur that had anything to do with the active shooter scenario, this button gets pushed, and you put the students on the friendly side of that ballistic panel, and they're safe and secure from any threat. If you look at the tactics of the threats that have been presented in active shooters, the idea is to get as many people moving around as possible, and then then the shooter deals with that. We think the reverse is the way to go. Stop people from moving around, but if you're going to stop them from moving around, they have to be safe and secure. Safe and secure means behind legitimate cover and concealment. So you can't see through this, and you can't shoot through that. And so if we put that across our system, we think we have done a major stride forward in providing protection in school districts. And in all candor, this is an unfortunate reality that's going on across school districts. I talked to my colleagues about this, and it is the worst nightmare for any superintendent or any community, quite frankly. So I just want to make sure that we're doing all that we can, and so this is the design we think would be effective. The other thing is vaping detection. Now that particular picture looks kind of like your smoke detector in your house. These are actually smaller than that, but we have a challenge with vaping going on in our bathrooms, in our secondary of our school district, which is our middle schools and high schools. And so we would deploy these vaping detection systems. They're tamper-proof, as well as they can detect very low grades of vape in the air. And they don't go exploding or lights going off and, hey, you're busted. They send a signal to wherever we have that directed. It's got software that's attendant with it, and we're able to move a person, a designated person, to interdict that vaping process going on our facility. Okay? So information technology support, we talked about we need some more people that are subject matter experts in key areas of our system. We also need to do some work around a few things. Our Network Operations Center, we have one in the district, and it is not redundant. It is located at Lakeville North High School. We need to establish a redundancy because our dependency on information technology for both work and teaching and learning is pretty high, as you can imagine, and we need to make sure that we are secure both from cybersecurity perspective and from disaster recovery perspective. The other thing I would just call out too is Many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with 5G and 4G, and also with internet, and how much of the information that we pass along the internet and through Wi-Fi is streaming, and our pipes are too small in our district for the amount of usage that we have, both for the community and in our teaching and learning process. Our community uses our facilities, and they are on our network when they come into our buildings, and that has produced some challenges. We did shift from a area to a density system about 3 years ago, using the dollars from the capital levy we had in 2015. We need to upgrade our pipes across the system on our cabling. So this is how the financials would break out for this particular part of the bond referendum. And this is kind of the bottom line at the end, bottom line at the bottom. For residential, we estimate $19 a month or $228 a year on both the operating and on the bond referendum. And then for commercial, $53 a month at $632 per year, and that's based on $1 million value business. You can go to our website if you want to see more information about our levy. If you want to find out what your market value actual cost would be, there's a calculator available to you, and you could put that in the system and see what your actual costs are with that calculator. So, with that, I thank you for your kind attention. I thank you for your time, because I know it's extremely valuable. I want to thank Mr. Weber and Ms. Holl for coming, and their parents for allowing us to share their story. And thank you for coming. I appreciate it tremendously. Thank you.